She doesn't react to chaos. She observes, she listens. In the noise of life, while others panic or rush to speak, she does the unthinkable. She chooses silence. Not the silence of surrender, but the silence of understanding. You see, most people think that being loud, being seen, being outspoken is a sign of strength. But there is a deeper power in the one who does not need to be loud, because she already knows who she is. Chaos is a test. It reveals who is grounded and who is not. It strips away illusion, and in the center of that storm, she remains calm. She does not fight noise with more noise. She doesn't argue with what she cannot control. Instead, she controls herself, and that is her greatest victory. There are moments in every woman's life where everything around her feels like it's falling apart. Expectations pile up. People misunderstand her silence. They mistake her calmness for weakness. They question her choices, her timing, her stillness. But she doesn't explain herself, not because she has no words, but because her peace is more valuable than the need to be understood. She has learned that the moment she opens her mouth in anger or fear, she gives her power away, so she chooses to protect it. With every challenge, she has trained herself to pause, to feel, to breathe. That pause, that sacred moment between the chaos and her response, is where her mastery lies. Silence is not the absence of power, it is its container. While others are spilling energy in every direction, she contains hers. She watches, she reads the room, she sees what others miss. And in doing so, she rises not by force, but by alignment. There is a kind of elegance in her restraint. She doesn't interrupt, she doesn't compete, she lets the noise pass. Because she knows that in time, all things reveal themselves. The truth always surfaces, and she has no need to rush it. She understands this world will not hand her peace, so she creates it in the early morning hours when no one is watching, in quiet choices that no one claps for, in letting go of battles that don't deserve her energy. That's her power, not in how loud she can be, but in how deeply she can stay centered. There are people who will try to provoke her, people who will misunderstand her silence as weakness, her distance as coldness. But she is not here to perform. She is not here to please. She is here to evolve. It took her years to learn that she does not have to attend every argument she's invited to. Not every comment deserves her energy. Not every moment demands her reaction. In fact, the more she grows, the less she reacts. That is the sign of her transformation, and here's the thing: silence is not easy. It is a discipline. It requires immense inner strength. It takes courage to bite your tongue when every emotion inside you is begging to speak. It takes mastery to choose peace when war is easier, but that's what makes her different. That's what sets her apart. She is not loud because she does not need to be. She is grounded, she is focused, and in her stillness there is unmatched power. Like the ocean before the wave, like the arrow before the release, stillness does not mean nothing is happening. It means everything is being aligned. While others rush to be heard, she is becoming unshakable. While they seek attention, she sharpens her attention inward. Her strength does not come from approval. It comes from alignment with her values, her purpose, her higher self. And in mastering her silence, she masters the chaos, because now nothing external controls her. No noise disturbs her peace. No opinion shakes her truth. She has become the calm in the storm, not because the storm disappeared, but because she no longer lets it inside her. She walks forward, not in noise, not in protest, but in silent certainty. Her silence is not empty. It is full of wisdom, full of presence, full of strength. That is her power, that is her choice, and that is her victory. While the world demands her attention, throws its noise, its pressure, its expectations at her feet, she does something most people never learn to do. She turns inward. not because she is avoiding the world, but because she understands one truth that changes everything. The inner world must be stronger than the outer noise. That's not just an idea, it's survival. For her, it's a way of living. The noise is constant. Everyone has an opinion. Society tells her who to be, how to act, what she should look like, how much she should achieve, when to speak, and when to stay quiet. It's endless, and if she lets it, that noise can bury her. It can drown her own voice, her intuition, her sense of self. That's why she no longer looks for peace in the world. She creates it within. She doesn't wake up and scroll through validation. She doesn't measure her worth by attention. She's done with that game because she knows the external world changes with the wind, applause one day, silence the next. She has chosen something deeper, something unshakable, a peace that does not depend on what's happening around her, only on what's happening inside. This peace wasn't given to her. She built it slowly, quietly, through discipline, through heartbreak, through moments where everything felt like too much and still. She chose to breathe, to center herself, to pull away from the chaos and return to her core. That's what makes her powerful. Not the fact that she's never been shaken, but the fact that she's learned how to return to stillness every time life tried to pull her apart. There were times she reacted, times when she let the world get too loud, when she raised her voice not because it helped, but because she was hurting. And in those moments, she realized that nothing outside could fix what was broken inside, so she stopped chasing external solutions. She turned to the place most fear to go within. That's where the shift happened. She learned to sit with herself, to face her truth, to hear her own thoughts beneath the opinions of others. That takes courage, because when the world is loud, silence can feel terrifying. But she embraced it, and in that silence she found her foundation. Now, when the world throws its chaos, she doesn't flinch. Because her roots are deeper, she's not moved by shallow things. Her strength is not in reaction, it's in regulation. She doesn't mirror the energy of the room. She brings her own, and that energy, it's calm, focused, present, not distracted by noise, not reactive to every voice that tries to pull her out of alignment. She sees through the surface. She knows what matters. She knows who she is, and that knowing protects her from everything that tries to shake her. This kind of inner power doesn't scream. It whispers. It shows up in how she carries herself, in how she chooses not to argue with ignorance, in how she walks away from things that once triggered her, in how she saves her energy for what truly matters. She no longer feels the need to explain her peace. She knows that not everyone will understand it, and that's okay. Peace doesn't need to be proven. It needs to be protected, and she's learned how to do that fiercely but silently. She guards her mental space like it's sacred, because it is. She doesn't let every opinion in. She doesn't give every situation access to her emotions. She has learned that not everything deserves her energy, and that wisdom gives her power. She's not trying to avoid life's noise. She's simply refusing to let it live inside her, and that's what separates her from the rest. She is not cold. She is not indifferent. She simply values her inner world too much to let chaos rewrite it. Because when the world is loud and voices are raised and people are reacting without thinking, she stays grounded. Her peace isn't passive. It's her weapon. It's her shield. It's her sanctuary, and no one can take it from her because it was never built on anything external. She carries this calm into everything she does, into every relationship, every task, every challenge. And without saying a word, she teaches others what it means to lead with quiet strength. She doesn't ask the world to be quiet anymore. She just makes sure she is steady within it. That is her way. That is her power. That is how she rises. She doesn't need to raise her voice to be heard. She doesn't need to shout to feel strong. because over time, she's learned something far more powerful. Control begins with the breath, not the voice. When the world gets loud, when life becomes too fast, too heavy, too chaotic, she doesn't join the noise. She returns to her breath. That breath, it's not just air, it's presence, it's awareness. It's a signal to her body that she is safe, that she is in control, even when everything around her feels like it's falling apart. The breath slows the mind, it grounds the soul, and it's always there, silent, steady, waiting for her to remember. There was a time she didn't understand this. Like everyone else, she reacted. The moment someone disrespected her, she defended herself. When things didn't go as planned, she panicked. She tried to control the outside world with force, with words, with volume. But all it did was exhaust her, because no matter how loud she became, the world didn't change, only she did. She lost her center, but something shifted the day she chose stillness. Not just silence, but stillness within. That's when she discovered the power of one intentional breath. Inhale, exhale, a pause between the moment and the reaction. That breath gave her space. It gave her perspective. It gave her back her power. Now she lives differently. She doesn't speak out of panic. She speaks from clarity. She doesn't rush decisions. She breathes into them. She doesn't waste words trying to convince anyone of who she is. Her energy already speaks for her, and her breath keeps it aligned. In stressful moments, she doesn't look for someone to blame. She closes her eyes and listens, not to the noise outside, but to the rhythm within. She asks herself, what does this moment require of me? Not how do I win this fight, but how do I stay true to myself? That's a different kind of strength, the kind that isn't taught in books, but earned in silence. Her breath is her anchor. When emotions rise, when her heart races, when fear creeps in, she returns to it. And every time she does, she remembers, she is not the chaos. She is the calm observing it. She is not her fear. She is the one who can breathe through it, and people notice. They may not understand it, but they feel it. Her presence carries a peace that cannot be faked. In rooms where others are triggered, she remains composed. Not because she feels nothing, but because she has mastered the space between stimulus and response. This discipline didn't come overnight. It was built in the quiet moments when no one was watching, when she had every reason to explode, and instead, she chose breath. Again and again, that breath became her training ground. It taught her to hold herself, to lead herself, to respect herself. Now she teaches others without even trying. Her presence invites others to slow down, to breathe deeper, to think before speaking. She doesn't need to command attention. Her energy does it for her. And it's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's just real, deeply real. She knows that strength doesn't come from dominating a room. It comes from regulating her inner world, because when she is steady inside, no storm can shake her. That steadiness comes from breath, from discipline, from choosing herself, again and again. Even in pain, she breathes. Even in pressure, she breathes. Even when she feels unheard, she doesn't rush to defend. She breathes. Because she knows reaction is easy, but control is power. And control isn't about others. It's about her relationship with herself. This is how she walks now, not with urgency, but with intention, not with tension, but with presence. She no longer feels the need to speak just to fill the silence. Her breath does the speaking. Her energy leads the way. Her stillness, her calm, her awareness, it all begins with one breath. And when the world spins fast, when voices rise, when life feels overwhelming, she doesn't join the chaos. She anchors herself in breath, because that is where her power lives. That is where she begins again. Every time, there's something remarkable about how she moves through crisis, not in panic, not in confusion, but in precision. She does not freeze. She does not lash out. She does not rush to fix everything all at once. Instead, she moves with quiet certainty. She has learned that in the middle of chaos, stillness isn't a lack of movement. It's measured action. Its presence, its intention. She is still inside, even while she moves forward. People expect breakdowns in the storm. They expect emotional outbursts, blame, noise. But she doesn't give them that. She gives them clarity. While others rush and react, she becomes surgical. She sees the pieces clearly, not because the situation is easier for her, but because she has trained herself to slow down on the inside, even when everything on the outside demands urgency. That's the power of stillness in action. It's not passive. It's not frozen. It's controlled movement. She doesn't run from difficulty. She steps into it, but without losing herself in the process. She doesn't let the chaos outside dictate the rhythm of her response. She sets her own rhythm, calm, focused, deliberate. There were moments in her past where she did the opposite. She rushed. She made decisions out of fear. She jumped to fix things just to escape the discomfort of uncertainty. And each time, it cost her energy, peace, clarity. That's when she realized speed doesn't always solve the problem. Sometimes it makes it worse. So she began doing the hard work, learning how to slow down, how to breathe before she moves, how to wait for alignment before taking action. Now she is different. When something unexpected happens, she doesn't spiral. She scans, she breathes, she adjusts. People around her may be falling apart, but she holds the space, not because she's unaffected, but because she has learned how to hold herself first. And that inner foundation gives her the strength to act without reacting. She trusts herself. That's the difference. She doesn't second guess every move. She doesn't act to prove anything. Her decisions come from inner knowing, not external pressure. And that knowing has been built through experience, through discipline, through paying attention to what works and what drains. When something breaks, a plan, a relationship, a routine, she doesn't collapse with it. She gets quiet. Not because she's avoiding it, but because she's listening. Every situation has information. Every challenge has a rhythm. And by staying calm, she can hear what others miss. That's how she moves effectively. Not randomly, not emotionally, but intelligently. Stillness in action is not about doing less. It's about doing what matters when it matters. It's about cutting through the noise and asking, what is the next best step? Not the most dramatic. Not the most impressive. Just the next best step. And she takes it fully present, fully grounded. Even when the pressure is high, even when everything is on the line, she carries this presence with her. She doesn't perform. She doesn't overcompensate. She doesn't scramble for control. She breathes, she grounds. And then she acts from a place of power, not panic. This is what makes her rare. Not that she never feels overwhelmed, but that she doesn't let overwhelm decide her behavior. She creates a pause, a gap between the chaos and her response. In that gap, she finds her strength, her clarity, her way forward. It's not loud, it's not obvious, but it's deeply powerful. She may not always get it perfect, but she gets it real. Her actions are aligned with her values. Her pace honors her peace, and because of that, she gets more done with less chaos. Less damage, less regret. People often ask how she stays so calm. The truth is, she's not always calm, but she's committed to calm. She returns to it. She practices it, every breath, every decision, every step forward. She's not immune to chaos, she's just no longer mastered by it. That's how she leads. That's how she heals. That's how she rises, with stillness at her core and precision in her steps. Always steady, always present, always enough. She doesn't chase attention. She doesn't waste her energy trying to prove her worth to people who were never meant to understand her. That part of her is done, finished. She used to care, used to overextend, overexplain, and overdeliver just to be seen, just to be appreciated. But now she's moved into a different place, a quieter, more powerful space. Now her energy is not spent on proving. It's spent on progress. There's a maturity in her now, one that didn't come from age, but from pain, from disappointment, from years of trying to meet expectations that never came with true support. She's learned the hard way that approval is a moving target, always shifting, never stable. One moment, they praise her for doing everything. The next, they criticize her for doing too much. So she stopped playing the game. She stopped trying to fit into other people's definitions of success, beauty, or strength. She started building her own. Quietly, not because she needed applause, but because she needed peace. Every day now, she chooses to rise not for show, not for validation, but for growth. For herself, for the woman she's becoming. There is such power in that shift. When you stop asking the world to clap for you, and you start clapping for yourself. When your work becomes your prayer, not your performance, she moves differently now, with intention, with awareness, with a calm certainty that says, I know what I'm doing, and I don't need you to approve of it. People may not see the effort she puts in behind closed doors. They don't witness the long nights, the quiet sacrifices, the moments of doubt she overcomes alone. They just see the result, and sometimes they still don't understand, but she doesn't correct them. She lets her growth speak. She lets her actions carry the message. She knows where her energy is going now. It's not scattered trying to make everyone happy. It's focused, laser focused on what actually matters. Her health, her peace, her passion, her purpose. That's where she's investing now. That's where she pours herself. And that investment pays off in silence, in deep fulfillment, in quiet confidence, in unshakable strength. Progress isn't always loud. It's often hidden in daily routines, in small choices, in tiny habits that nobody praises. She wakes up and shows up even when it's hard. She keeps promises to herself, not to please others, but because she respects her own word. And every time she chooses consistency over chaos, every time she puts her energy where it truly belongs, she rises. Unapologetic authenticity doesn't need to prove anything. It's in her alignment, in how deeply she stays true to her values even when no one is watching. That's what separates her from the rest. Not talent, not luck, but discipline, focus, humility, the kind of progress that doesn't need to be broadcast because it's written in her energy. Some people won't understand her quiet grind. They'll think she's distant or cold, but that's not the truth. She's just done with empty noise. She's not cold, she's clear. She's not distant. She's intentional, and the people who are meant to walk with her will respect that. She's stopped justifying her journey, stopped over-explaining her boundaries. She knows that the right people won't require her to shrink or shine just to feel accepted. The right people will honor her progress, even if it doesn't come with big announcements. Every day, she asks herself one question: did I move forward? It might be one step, one small choice, one mindset shift. That's enough, because she's not chasing speed, she's chasing depth. And that kind of journey is sacred. It's slow, it's personal. She's no longer performing. She's no longer seeking applause. She's building something real, something lasting. And she knows that some seasons require isolation, require silence, require her to pull back so she can grow forward. That's the work that matters most, the work no one sees but everyone eventually feels. So now she moves in purpose. Not to impress, not to prove, but to evolve. And in that evolution, she finds her power, not from how many are watching, but from how true she is being to herself. That is the kind of progress no one can take from her. She doesn't need recognition for every effort. She doesn't chase visibility. What she's building, what she's becoming, it's happening in the quiet, in the unnoticed spaces. While the world applauds what's seen, she remains committed to what's invisible. Her legacy isn't being shaped in grand moments. It's being written in quiet repetition, in daily choices, silent strength, and unseen discipline. That's where her transformation lives. Most people look for big breakthroughs, loud turning points, but she knows better. She knows that real growth, real mastery, doesn't happen in dramatic scenes. It happens on the days that look ordinary when no one's watching, when no one's cheering, and still, she shows up. Again and again, she's not addicted to motivation anymore. She's devoted to discipline. She no longer needs to feel ready. She simply honors her word to herself. There were times when she felt invisible, times when her effort was ignored, her strength misunderstood, her endurance taken for granted. It hurt, yes, but she used that pain. She turned it inward, not to hide, but to build, to create an unshakable foundation, a rhythm of resilience, a habit of rising. Every morning she got up when her body begged to rest. Every time she chose peace when anger was easier. Those were victories no one will ever see, but she will never forget. That is how she's becoming unbreakable, not by proving herself to the world, but by staying loyal to herself when it's hard, when the applause is missing, when the progress feels slow, when doubt whispers louder than hope. Even then, she continues. And that consistency, that unwavering effort, is what's shaping her into the woman she's meant to be. She has learned that not all growth looks like blooming. Sometimes it looks like surviving, like holding on when everything tells you to let go, like repeating the basics when your mind wants distraction. She's no longer in a rush to arrive. She's grounded in the process. Her focus isn't on how fast she can get there. It's on how deeply she can become who she's meant to be. She understands now that repetition is sacred. It is spiritual. Because every time she repeats the right thing, a good habit, a quiet discipline, a grounded decision, she's building trust with herself. And that self-trust, that's her power, not a title, not a spotlight, but the quiet knowing that she keeps her word, even when no one's watching. Others may scroll past her story. They may never hear the internal battles she's won. They may never know how hard she fought to stand where she stands. But she knows, and that's enough. Her strength is not for display. It's for her journey, for her healing, for her purpose. While the world moves on trends and flashes, she builds in depth, in truth. Her foundation isn't shaken by lack of attention, because she's not rooted in validation. She's rooted in vision, and her vision doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be consistent. Her legacy isn't being built in applause. It's being built in her choices, when she chooses compassion over criticism, effort over excuses, healing over hiding. That's what's creating the future version of her, not one big moment, but thousands of small ones, quiet victories that no one claps for, but they are the ones that matter the most. She's not waiting for the perfect day, the perfect mood, the perfect conditions. She works with what she has. She shows up tired. She shows up uncertain. She shows up even when her heart is heavy, because she knows that showing up again and again is where her power lives. And every time she does, she grows more grounded, more real, more unshakable. This is the woman who's not here to impress. She's here to transform. Quietly, consistently, endlessly. She doesn't need to announce it. She doesn't need to prove it. Her life will speak. Her energy will speak. Her legacy will speak, not because it was loud, but because it was real, and real always lasts.